Mike McCarthy is the next head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you guys already knew that. But what you guys might not know is the ins and outs of what he likes to do schematically on the offensive side of the ball. And that's what we're going to be talking about today here on Steelers Talk. I'm going to be taking an in-depth look at what you guys can expect from Mike McCarthy and Brian Angelico as they construct the 2026 Pittsburgh Steelers offense from a schematic perspective. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, and this one's going to be a bit of a nerdy video, guys, but if you guys want to get your loved one married into this merch here for Valentine's Day, it's not too late. You can go chatsports.com/VDayST. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show. Included in this collection are a black sweatshirt, a white sweatshirt, and then ladies' t-shirts. Right now, the black sweatshirt is the leading seller. So if you guys want to make your purchase today, the stuff is super comfortable. We finally found a partner for merch here on Steelers Talk that we absolutely love and we're very proud to partner with. It helps the show, every single purchase does, because it is a revenue stream for us, and it helps us pay for rent, helps us pay for the lighting and pay for our equipment and all that different stuff, guys. And my bosses tell me that if this stuff does well and we can sell a lot of this married into this merch, we can do even more merch opportunities down the road here for St. Patrick's Day and the 4th of July and all these different events, the NFL draft coming up, Mike McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers for specific NFL players. We can do a bunch of stuff like that in the future, but we got to prove to them that this stuff can sell. So if you guys want to make your purchase today, it's chatsports.com/VDayST. Also, the sweatshirts are unisex, so even the fellas can wear it around if you guys want. So again, guys, that's chatsports.com/VDayST to get our married into this merch collection today. All right, so now let's get into what's on today's show. And what we're going to be talking about first is the West Coast offensive tenets, kind of what this kind of branch of football kind of teaches and what their philosophy is. Then we'll talk about how Mike McCarthy puts his own spin on the West Coast offense. And then we'll talk about where Brian Angelico, the non-play calling OC, what he brings to the table coming over from the Minnesota Vikings and Kevin O'Connell. So we'll start here with the West Coast offensive staples that are kind of universal across anybody that would call themselves a part of the West Coast tree. Okay, number one, you have the pass open up the run. And this was kind of revolutionary back in the day where they kind of swapped out the early down run game for an early down quick passing game to replace that run game and spread things out, let wide receivers run with the football, all that different stuff. And quick game is something that is very prevalent in any West Coast system. And you're going to see it a lot in Mike McCarthy's offense here in Pittsburgh. We saw it a lot last year with Aaron Rodgers. And honestly, the offense that McCarthy's going to run here in Pittsburgh is going to look pretty similar to the one that we ran last year, only I think it's going to be better run with McCarthy at the helm versus a guy like Arthur Smith, who had never really ran this style of offense specifically until Aaron Rodgers came to Pittsburgh. So we can take a look at some of the quick game concepts that you can expect to see from the Steelers week in and week out. This is Dragon Lion here. Lion is simply double slants that you guys can see at the top of the screen. And then Dragon is a slant-flat combo. So Rodgers will, we saw a lot of this from the Steelers last year. It's one of Rodgers' favorite quick game concepts. If he sees something in a defense pre-snap that tells him, hey, this is going to be open versus this kind of coverage, he can change to it at any time. Also, another one that's a favorite of Rodgers is stick, which is the three wide receiver, the Y there, running a stick route depending on the coverage of the defense. The slot wide receiver there, the number 2, is running a flat, and then the Z on the outside is running a go. They usually pair that with a dragon concept on the other side, with the running back running a flat, with the X receiver running a slant. You saw this a lot on the Pittsburgh Steelers' offensive film this past season because it is one of Rodgers' quick game staples. Another one that you'll see in the West Coast world that's not my favorite personally, guys, and it's really a dinosaur in my opinion, is Hank, which is a curl flat combo to one side with three-way horizontal stretch with stop routes at 3 different points on the same level of a defense. So this can work against your basic cover 3 stuff like that. You read the middle of the field defender, see which one he squeezes on, and then you throw it to the curl route that he squeezes, essentially. So then you can also go spacing. It's another West Coast quick game staple where you've got a sit route, a hitch route, and a flat. This is good against zone coverage where, depending on where the defenders go, there's going to be one guy that is open between those three. Then there's snag or spot, which is a flat plus a spot route and a corner route. This is a West Coast staple that if you've ever played Madden, you play Z-spot, for example. This is something that you'll see where it's a triangle read is what they call it in the West Coast system, and then they'll have some sort of option route on the X route on the other side of the formation. Another one that's very popular is shallow cross in the West Coast world, where you'll have a basic over the intermediate level of the field, and then you'll have a shallow cross breaking at the opposite direction, trying to get the defenders to go towards the basic, and you can dump it off to the shallow cross, usually paired with a post on the outside there with the Z, with the X running an alert go on that side of the formation. Another very popular West Coast, kind of quick game concept, so to speak, is mesh, and specifically mesh rail, where you've got that rail route from the running back there. That's the number one read. Then you go down to the drag coming across on the same side. That's the slot receiver there. Then you progress to the sit route, which is the Z in this particular play art, and then usually that's paired with some sort of alert route, whether it's an out or a go or a post, or sometimes even a dig route from the X wide receiver, depending on what kind of mesh you're playing. They can mix and match that based on defensive alignment and defensive personnel that you're facing that week. But then, it's not just quick game stuff, guys. They do attack down the field when teams, kind of creep up and they try to take away the quick passing game. That's when they can hit you with some downfield passing concepts, and we can talk about some of those here as well. We can start with flood, which is a 3-level vertical stretch towards the sideline. If you play zone coverage and you just play country zone coverage, it's impossible to cover all 3 levels at the same time unless you completely flood to one side of the formation, which would leave you super vulnerable to other areas of the field. It's usually paired with a backside dig. So whenever you hear the term backside dig, it's usually paired with a sail or a flood concept. Speaking of sail, it's a flood concept with a specific type of route from the slot where they're bending inside and then they bend back outside. Once again, it's paired with that backside dig, where you've got that 3-level vertical stretch. And it's used in literally every single offense in the National Football League. And then another kind of form of flood is Y cross, where you've got the slot receiver on one side of the formation running a deep cross across the formation, and then you have the 3-level stretch there in this particular play to the left side with that backside dig still built in. So there's different ways to get there. And as you'll see throughout the course of this show, everyone kind of runs the same stuff. It's just about how you dress it up and different names for similar types of concepts. Another very popular West Coast concept here is Yankee, which is an intermediate inbreaker, whether that's a basic route, whether that's a deep crosser is the more modern version of this, but then it's paired with a post and usually a shallow cross, and then you've got some check down options as well. Expect to see more of this with Mike McCarthy calling plays here in Pittsburgh. There's also dagger, which is a very popular concept as well, where you've got a clear out route from the slot, and then you bring in a dagger route there, a nice basic or dig over the middle of the field there to draw the deep zone defenders out, clearing space for that intermediate inbreaker. It's usually paired with a shallow cross and then a check down. Another one that is popular here is drive, where you've got shallow and intermediate inbreakers breaking to the same side of the formation there. Once again, paired with certain alerts, such as a post or a go from the X. Another one that you can turn to is Texas, which is very effective in Madden, where you've got either a fullback or a running back running that angle route there, paired with either a post or a go, or a seam, I should say, from that wide tight end. It could also be a slot wide receiver. It's usually paired with curls on the outside. Another one that's popular is scissors, where you've got a post and a corner combination to try and put a safety in conflict deep down the field and then throw it to whichever one the safety doesn't cover. That's a very popular third down concept in the league, usually paired with some sort of circus or comeback or go from the other side of the formation, and then some sort of shallow in-breaker breaking underneath the scissors. But plain simply, as just to put it into just a couple phrases, is that, the passing game in the West Coast offense is very YAC focused. Getting the ball out in space to playmakers, whether it's a check down, whether it is a downfield pass, whether it's an intermediate throw over the middle. The whole goal is to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers in space with a head of steam, which I think is perfect for this Steelers offense because you've got some awesome YAC threats. We saw it last year in this Steelers offense. DK Metcalf, when he gets that head of steam, nobody is bringing him down. I think this style of offense is perfect for him, especially when he's not getting double teamed. Then you get Darnell Washington, who, as we saw last year, is a perfect check flat option who can just run over people. No linebacker or DB wants to tackle that guy in open space. And Jalen Morin is excellent as a check down option as a running back. Kenny Gainwell also fits into this category if they bring him back. And I actually think Pat Freiermuth showed himself to be a decent YAC threat last year as well. There's a reason why the Steelers team was number one in yards after the catch last year. It's because Rodgers likes to run this kind of spread style, West Coast heavy offense where it's lots of passing, lots of YAC opportunities. And I think they made the most of that last year, even if they didn't have the downfield element. Then in terms of the run game, because it's pass to open up the run, and it's a lot of shotgun, a lot of spread, especially McCarthy's brand of the West Coast, there's a lot of zone and there's a lot of draw plays. All right, draw plays can be particularly effective, especially if teams are honing in on the quick passing game. You take that little drop and then you hand it off to the running back. Can be a very effective play if you want to run the West Coast offense. It's been a staple of the West Coast offense dating back to its origin. But now coming up here on Steelers Talk, we're going to talk about specifics. What does Mike McCarthy and Brian Angelico bring to their brand of the West Coast offense that's going to make the Steelers offense unique and different from what it's been in years past? Well, I've got the answers for you here in the second half of today's show. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at GLD. And let's be real, guys, buying men's jewelry can be an absolute nightmare nowadays. Most of the time, it's either low-quality junk that just snaps after a week, or it's insanely overpriced stuff with ridiculous markups. That's why I rock with GLD. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. GLD has completely changed the game in men's jewelry. You're getting completely quality pieces that are built to last without breaking the bank. And unlike a lot of other companies, GLD only uses real gold. None of that cheap stuff. Every single stone is meticulously hand set, plus their proprietary production process makes sure you're getting the highest quality jewelry possible. You can literally see and feel the difference, which is why I'm actually wearing my Steelers pendant that I got from GLD here today to show you guys. Absolutely love it. It just absolutely shines. I don't know if you guys can tell on camera here, but when I wear it around the office, people are like, man, where did you get that? And I proudly tell them I got it from GLD. And you guys know the feeling that you get when you put on a new chain. It just hits different. It elevates your whole fit. The confidence, the compliments, the way you carry yourself all change instantly. And GLD has everything that you could possibly want, from chains to pendants to rings, earrings, and even fully iced out watches if that's your style. Whatever your style is, though, they've got you covered. And listen, guys, don't just take my word for it. Over 2 million customers and 50,000 five-star reviews back this stuff up. Not to mention it's worn by some of the biggest names out there like Justin Bieber, Micah Parsons, Tyreek Hill, Malik Neighbors, A$AP Rocky, and a ton more. And the best part is that every single piece from GLD is guaranteed for life. It's literally built to last the rest of your life, just like your love for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So work hard and change the game right now. GLD is making shopping easy for you right now. For a limited time only, new customers get an insane deal. Use code CHAT to get 50% off at GLD.com. That's 50% off with code CHAT at GLD.com. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. And a big shout out to GLD for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. So now let's talk about Mike McCarthy's kind of spin on the West Coast offense, what is kind of lovingly referred to as the Tex Coast offense, which was dubbed when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. And he loves option routes, guys, particularly from the slot. This is where CeeDee Lamb made a lot of money, particularly during the 2023 season, is that he would give CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott a lot of trust to figure it out based on the defensive coverage. And honestly, guys, I think these kinds of routes are perfect for Pat Freiermuth and his skill set. Now, he's not a true slot wide receiver, but he is somebody that's very smart. He's very good at finding those soft spots in zones. And, I think in some of these concepts where he's going to be asking, Pat Freiermuth to run either a basic or a post based on the defensive coverage, he's going to be able to use that perfectly. And then I actually really liked the connection that was built between Aaron Rodgers and Pat Freiermuth at the end of last year. I think this offense is the perfect fit for Pat Freiermuth's skill set and something that McCarthy loved to run in Dallas. This is an example from Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, is a 9-8-9 concept where you've got two goes on the outside, and then you've got a choice route from the slot wide receiver there that can either run a post if it's two-eye safety, or can run a basic there over the middle of the field if it's single high coverage, okay? And this is a concept that made CeeDee Lamb a lot of money, where he absolutely dominated that 2023 season with Dak Prescott throwing him the football. If you have a quarterback and a wide receiver or a tight end that can really hone in on each other there and have a great connection, those option routes are a great use for an offensive play caller, and McCarthy is not afraid to pull that trigger. But also getting a wide receiver that can dominate in the slot that's not Freiermuth will be important, in my opinion, for Pittsburgh, all right? Whether that's in the draft, whether that's in free agency, you need to get somebody that can go out there and run those kinds of option routes because, they're pretty plentiful in McCarthy's version of the West Coast system. Also, a big differentiator between kind of the older school West Coast stuff and McCarthy's new school West Coast system is the RPO usage. He'll have a lot of SROs as well, screen run options. But RPOs is something that Dak Prescott ran a ton of in Dallas and got a lot of production out of. I expect to see a lot more of those here in Pittsburgh than what we've seen in recent years. Then also attacking the middle of the field is a big part of Mike McCarthy's offense. Just look at George Pickens in Dallas right now. Brian Schottenheimer still running a Mike McCarthy-style offense there in Dallas, and CeeDee Lamb. Those two guys alone just absolutely kill you over the middle of the field. It also tends to utilize tight ends over the middle of the field very effectively. It gets the ball to playmakers in space, man, and it's very effective at doing that. Also, McCarthy is somebody that loves the shotgun spread drop back game, and he loves to give his quarterbacks freedom at the line of scrimmage. And this is why you've seen Aaron Rodgers play this style of offense his entire career, is because he absolutely loves it. He loves to have that freedom and that creativity in this offense to be able to say, okay, I'm seeing what this defense is doing here. I'm going to switch to stick, or I'm going to switch to dragon or lion, or I'm going to go to Texas or something like that. And, this offense, just installs dozens of audible calls that the quarterback can go to at any given time for a bunch of the concepts that we talked about today. If there's a specific type of defense that Rodgers or Dak Prescott in the past wanted to attack, all they would have to do is a little hand signal or a word signal, and they were able to change the play instantly to something else. And McCarthy, one of the things I really like about him is that when he has a quarterback that, can dissect defenses, he's not afraid to give that quarterback a lot of autonomy at the line of scrimmage to get the offense into the right play. Garrett Pottle, who reports for the Dallas Cowboys, had this to say about Dak Prescott and what he told him about his growth as a passer in Mike McCarthy's offense. He said, Dak said he felt like he really grew from setting the protection at the line of scrimmage, pass protection before the snap. Prescott felt like he really grew as a pre-snap quarterback with Mike McCarthy. Mike also gave him more control in terms of audibles and changing different things at the line of scrimmage. He felt like he really grew in the more cerebral elements of the game under Mike McCarthy. And guys, I think McCarthy, part of the reason why he's so good at working with quarterbacks is that, this offense really does require a lot out of these quarterbacks from a pre-snap, a post-snap perspective, and you got to be a smart cookie to run this offense, man. And if you have that intelligent style quarterback that can, get into and out of the right play at a moment's notice, like Aaron Rodgers, like Dak Prescott, this offense can be absolutely phenomenal, and it's evidenced by Mike McCarthy having 4 top scoring scoring offenses in his career. He's had a number of top 10 offenses. He rarely doesn't have a top 10 offense because he's had Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, and he's helped cultivate these guys into two of some of the most cerebral passers that we have seen in the last 2 decades in the NFL. And by the way, guys, Aaron Rodgers is still that cerebral level passer, and that's part of the reason why I think Rodgers is Pittsburgh's best option at quarterback here in 2026. You need a smart quarterback that knows this system to be able to get the team in and out of the right play. And not only has Aaron Rodgers, one of the most smart quarterbacks in the history of football, he's operated this system, and a lot of the language is probably going to be the same as it was when he was playing with McCarthy in Green Bay. So it's just going to fit seamlessly. It's going to fit like a glove. It's going to be like riding a bike. And I think Rodgers, because of that, gives this team the best chance to succeed as the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers here in 2026. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are enjoying today's show. If you guys like in-depth football content like this, specifically when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, we love to get nerdy here on the show. And if you guys want more in-depth kind of scheme breakdowns like this, we could do one on Patrick Graham's defense. We could do a bunch of different stuff. Let me know by clicking that thumbs up icon and letting me know that you like this content. All right, so now let's talk about new offensive coordinator Brian Angelico from the Minnesota Vikings, former pass game coordinator there, and what he brings to the table here and what he brings to the equation, because Mike McCarthy's calling plays. So a question I get a lot is, what exactly is Angelico bringing to the table? Well, the first thing that I think he brings is pre-snap motion. Now, we've seen McCarthy dabble in pre-snap motion in the past. In fact, the Cowboys were number 1 in pre-snap motion back in 2023. But he certainly hasn't been known for his pre-snap motion and stuff like that. But guess what? Everybody in the NFL more or less runs the same concepts. A lot of the concepts that we talked about today are run universally in the National Football League. The difference is, and what kind of separates the great play callers and great play designers from just the okay ones or the bad ones, is that they dress them up in different ways that give the offense certain advantages. And I think what Angelico brings to the table here as the new offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers is that the Vikings have been known for finding very creative ways to get their passing concepts and get to their various things that they like to run, but do it in creative ways and find creative motions before and during the snap to be able to set up getting those receivers open. And then, another way that they get really creative there in Minnesota is personnel usages. And what I mean by that is where they line up certain receivers. I mean, you would find Justin Jefferson, as the running back in the backfield next to J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold quite a bit in this offense. When Kevin O'Connell was with the Los Angeles Rams, you would see Cooper Kupp in the backfield quite a bit as well. They are not afraid to get creative and, putting tight ends out wide, running backs out wide, finding creative ways to use, especially versatile personnel. I mean, if we bring back Kenny Gainwell in this offense, I think Brian Angelico can have an absolute field day with where he lines Kenny Gainwell up, all those different things. If you bring in a Deebo Samuel, you could line him up in a bunch of different positions as well. I think that's one of the great strengths of Brian Angelico's pass game coordination, and one of the reasons why Minnesota really did not want to, let him go and let him go to Pittsburgh. But, another thing that I really like about Angelico is he finds creative ways to beat specific coverages. And we'll talk about one of those examples on today's show. I won't bore you with multiple examples, but something that you see when you look at the Vikings film is that, they'll run a concept that's pretty basic or pretty universal, but they'll find a little bit of a wrinkle to be able to, find an advantage. So you guys can see here that Minnesota is lined up in 12 personnel, something you're going to see a lot of from the Pittsburgh Steelers this year with Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. One running back in a single back formation with Justin Jefferson at the bottom of your screen, and then another receiver at the top of your screen. Okay, and Minnesota knows that the Houston Texans, their opponent in this game, likes to play a lot of cover 1 and cover 3. Okay, and they know that they like to rotate down from a 2-high safety look into a cover 3 zone. That's exactly what the Houston Texans are doing here. And you guys can take a look here at this next photo. This is Justin Jefferson over there, the guy that's wide fucking open, okay? That's Brian Angelichio, because what they actually do is they have one of the tight ends run what they call a catch route, where he kind of runs like a little sit route here in the middle of the field, kind of getting the attention of the hook curl defenders in this cover 3. They attach that tight end, and then all of a sudden, man, you're running that Yankee concept with that other receiver. He's clearing out the other safeties, and then this other corner who's playing kind of back, he's kind of put in no man's land, and then all of a sudden you got the best receiver in football wide open without a defender next to him, within at least 5 yards. I mean, that's just great scheme right there. That's scheming people open, and we're looking for guys that can scheme DK Metcalf open. We're looking for somebody that can scheme, our future, draft pick at wide receiver open. Like, we need somebody that can get creative and, take something as simple as a Yankee concept that literally every single offense runs, and then put a little wrinkle in there, like this little catch route versus a team that likes to play cover 3, so that we can get our best player open in certain spots. That's what Brian Angelichio brings to the table, and that's what I think he adds to the Mike McCarthy offense here in Pittsburgh. So listen, man, my take on the whole situation and on the offensive side of the ball is that this is an upgrade compared to what we had in Arthur Smith last year at offensive play caller. And I think that this scheme is going to be it's going to be similar in a lot of ways to what we saw from Pittsburgh last year. It's still going to be the quote-unquote Aaron Rodgers style of offense. He's going to have a lot of control at the line of scrimmage. It's going to be a lot of passing to open up the run. It's going to be a lot of that stuff. But I think that with Mike McCarthy's experience running this style of offense, and then Brian Angelico's ability to put in creative ways to use personnel, creative ways to use motion, and creative ways to beat specific types of coverage, I think that this offense can take that next step, especially if they can get the right pieces at the wide receiver room to aid Aaron Rodgers in his second year here in Pittsburgh. So true or false? Let me know down there in the comment section. The Steelers will have a top 10 offense in the NFL under Mike McCarthy next season. Keep in mind, Mike McCarthy very rarely has a non-top 10 season if his starting quarterback is healthy for the entirety of the year. So type T if you think this statement is true, type F if you think this statement is false, and that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today. If you guys want more nerdy type of videos like this, click that thumbs up icon, and if you never want to miss any of our free videos, click that subscribe button.